What's up, Airsofters? This baby right here is the Hudson H9. The Hudson H9 is one of the most unique pistol designs to hit the market in the last decade. Developed by a husband and wife team in Texas, the Hudson was built from the ground up to be an improvement on the classic 1911. Chambered at 9mm, the Hudson kept the grip angle and the trigger of the 1911, but otherwise went in a completely new direction. The most obvious departure from modern handgun design is the enlarged portion in front of the trigger guard. This contains the recoil spring assembly, including the recoil spring guide. By putting it there, the barrel can sit lower, closer to the shooter's hand than almost any other semi-automatic pistol. This very low bore axis helps keep the muzzle from flipping during recoil, which means quicker, more accurate follow-up shots. So what you've got is a combination of what shooters loved most about striker fire design, combined with what shooters loved about 1911 design, combined it with a lower recoiling, more easily available, and ultimately more controllable round in the 9mm, and you really have an incredible pistol. Now, having shot this myself, I can tell you that all of the claims, designs, and elements that went into making the H9 hold water. Now, let's go over some of the external features and the really cool markings. The markings on this pistol are minimal and elegant, just like the Hudson H9 design. The Hudson H9 logo just behind the front serrations and on the bottom of the magazine. The chamber is marked 9x19, just like the real thing, and just above the grip on either side you have the place of manufacture and a unique serial number. This is one of the truly ambidextrous pistols out there. The slide lock is on both sides, and the mag release can be swapped from left to right in just a few seconds. Now, while the original Hudson H9 did not have a thumb safety, for those that want it, there is one included in the box that you can add on to the Airsoft version of the H9. Originally, it was going to be dubbed the H9T for tactical, because somehow thumb safeties make things more tactical. Maybe the T stood for thumb safety. Maybe that makes more sense. The designers put a lot of hard work and love into every aspect of this design, making sure that every feature and contour had a purpose. And speaking of having a purpose, as you can see, there isn't a lot of extra material and bulk around the pistol, especially between the magazine and the grip. This means that the frame isn't too bulky, so even if you have smaller sized hands, it should fit and feel great. Speaking of magazines, this just feels great. It seats really well and easy and locks into place with a solid click. And when you want to eject it, it comes free, nice and smooth. And did I mention that the mag release is easy to depress even with a full grip? Some of the other features on the H9 include a threaded outer barrel, which takes 12mm adapters for all of your mock suppressors or barrel extensions. It comes with an accessory rail, but as you can see, it drops the light outside of one of the more comfortable thumb or trigger finger positions. It also has a unique trigger safety, which rides across the top of the trigger guard. It has a double stack magazine, which is of course fantastic. More rounds, more gas, more power, and of course, it has the optional safety. But before we take this thing to the range, let's look at the insides. The Hudson pistol is very easy to take apart. You just lock the slide back, push on the takedown pin from the right, and rotate the flange on the left side 90 degrees clockwise. Releasing the slide allows it to disengage and slide forward off the lower frame. The inner barrel and bucking are standard TM spec. However, the blowback components are proprietary, as are the magazines. With the pistol now disassembled, I'll point out where you can adjust your hop-up, right here. There's a little arrow that shows you which way to turn the wheel to apply more backspin or hop. When you put the pistol back together, watch for the recoil spring to line up with the hole in the front of the slide. This can be a little tricky at first, so don't worry if it takes a few tries. Now that we've got the Hudson out here at our outdoor testing facility, I think it's worth mentioning that this really is one of the coolest pistols I've ever seen. The low bore axis, familiar controls, awesome looking design make this an awesome pistol. And I can understand why it fits so many people's imaginations of what a futuristic pistol could be. They've really taken the best things about the 1911 and combined it with a striker fired system, giving you an ultimate double stack 9mm pistol, or in Airsoft, the 6mm version. But let's talk a little bit about ergonomics. People familiar with the 1911 will feel right at home with the H9, and because it's no wider than a standard 1911, the grip feels the same too, albeit with the difference of having a more squared off front grip face. Those with smaller hands might find this a little less comfortable than a standard 1911, but for guys with 9 and 10 sized hands, that feels really comfortable right out of the box. But I'm sure you're wondering how this thing performs accurately in an indoor CQC or standard pistol range distance. Let's head over to the target. We've got our green gas powered 2.5s in the magazine of the Hudson H9. 25 feet away, I think, is pretty standard for most CQC or pistol range engagement distances. Let's see how it does. Now, as you can see at 25 feet, it's real easy to get pistols inside that A zone. Having not cleaned the inner barrel and taken it right out of the box, I think it's pretty consistent right out of the box, and I'm pleased with how it shoots. It's really comfortable to fire. The low bore axis makes it really easy to get a pistol grip and to bring your sights up really easily. I think there will be a little bit of a learning curve for those familiar with other pistols because of the positioning of the slide with the spring guide and recoil spring underneath. Just in front of the trigger guard. You'll have to drop your trigger finger a little bit lower than you might be used to, and because of the trigger safety, you'll need to ride the upper half of the trigger as opposed to riding the lower half of the trigger guard that you may be familiar with on standard 1911. So a little bit to get used to, but really easy to get used to all the same. One other note about the sights. Now, I find the sights really easy to get a sight picture on. They're really comfortable, and it's really nice to be able to draw the pistol and get a nice sight line right out of the box. I will say though that the inclusion of the fiber optic sight in the front is a little bit of a letdown. There's no hole to let light into the fiber optic, so it really doesn't glow. Now, outside, not a huge problem, but if you're indoors in a low light environment, the fiber optic really isn't going to do much for you. Easily remedied with a white or silver Sharpie. You can put a dot there if you'd like, or the real H9 is compatible with Smith & Wesson style front sight dovetails. So perhaps an Airsoft Smith & Wesson will have a similarly sized dovetail. You might be able to swap that out for another existing upgrade sight. Always something you can look at, but the rear sight is great. And the grooves on top of the slide are really nice for reducing glare, so you're not going to have a problem using this outdoors. Other than that, extremely comfortable. The controls are easy to get to, and it's really easy to get a sight picture. One other final note, because the inner barrel is locked to the frame as opposed to floating in the slide, and it is not really permanently attached to the outer barrel, during its recoil stroke, the inner barrel is not affected by the movement of the outer barrel, giving you a much more consistent firing and making sure that you can repeatedly get accurate shots without having to reacquire your sights. It's a nice shooting pistol. It's time to chrono. We've got our X3200 chronograph from X-Cortec. I've got it set to 0.20 gram BBs, and I've got 0.20 gram BBs and a fresh green gas mag in the Hudson H9. Let's give it a try. Pretty consistent at 300 FPS. It's fluctuating by about 5 each time, so about 300 to 305 is where you'll find that's sitting right there. Well, that's enough shooting these outdoors. Back to the studio. As I said outside, this really is one of the coolest looking, futuristic looking pistols out on the airsoft market. And, let's address the elephant in the room. There really is not a real H9 available at this time as a real handgun. So if you want to get your hands on something like this, the Airsoft version is really your only option. And it just so happens to be an awesome option that not only functions really well, but looks awesome and comes in 2 different color schemes. Plus, it gives you the added functionality of being compatible with right and left-handed shooters easily. It'll take a mock suppressor, and the outer barrel won't ride the top of the slide or disrupt your shots, meaning that you'll have more consistent shots, whether you're using a tracer unit or just shooting it normally. Consistent gas pressure. I think the only thing we need more of is holsters. So, if you want to check one of these bad boys out, make sure you check it out at Evike.com and stay tuned to our social media for release dates on the soon-to-be released holsters for these bad boys. Thanks for tuning in once again to Evike.com. Make sure you click the subscribe button if you like the videos we're doing. Comment below on what your favorite Airsoft pistols are and whether or not you like the futuristic looks and design combining the striker-fired and hammer-fired design elements in the Hudson H9. Whether you've got one already, tell us what you think of it. Hit the bell icon to be notified of our latest product updates and reviews here on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to our social media, including Facebook and Instagram. As always, play hard, play safe, and play responsibly. See you guys later.